Hello, everyone. It is Rory here at that Eurovision site. We are still here, continuing on with our recaps for the national final season. And in this video, I'm joined by the lovely Daniel. Hey, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Fantastic. Great to hear. That's what we like to hear. And of course, we're doing it on quite possibly the best national final selection of the year. And that's not because I'm biased or anything at all like that. That's just not how we do things here. But as you can see in the title of this video, we are going to be talking about Festival da Canção, which is Portugal's Eurovision selection for 2024. And this is the first time that Portugal is going to be taking part in a Eurovision Song Contest that has been hosted by Malmö in over, well, not just Malmö, but Sweden since 1992. So this is kind of an interesting one. So, like maybe there might still be some kind of grudge being held against Sweden or something like that. This very clearly that's just not the case anymore. It seems to have been broken,
No.
which is as it should. But yes, so this year we had 20 songs competing in the national selection as per usual. We had an uptake of the number of songs that were going to be included in the open submission selection. And we had two semi-finals, and then we had one big final, which happened on the 9th of March. And Iolanda came out on top with her song Grito. And I mean, let's just get this going. I mean, like, what did you make of the winner? Because of course, this seems like a song that's really up your alley.
It's a Portuguese girl ballad and a very good one at that. I think no one does this type of music better than Portugal anywhere. And it's a really well executed at what it does, both in the sound of the song, both in how she posted it live on the stage, and her vocals as well were great. I
Yeah.
think it was a sort of foregone conclusion that she was winning just because it had the televote appeal and the juries weren't going to not go for it, I
True.
think.
Yeah. I mean, it was very much geared towards the juries, I felt, because like
Yeah.
juries appreciate ballads a lot more than sort of up tempo songs. We've seen that time and time again at a Eurovision level, but also within Portugal itself. Now bear in mind, obviously, last year with Mimica, I mean, that was a different story because I think she had a lot more going for her, I guess, in terms of like
Yeah.
her story, for example. But this song just really appealed to a jury thing. So yeah, it didn't really surprise me that she basically swept the jury vote when it came to the final.
Yeah.
But then, of course, when it came down to the actual sort of public vote, she finished in second place behind Joao. Oh God, Joao Borsch is the name. With Pilar
Yeah.
Costores, and I mean, sort of thinking. I mean, with that, do you think with the way that the show has gone, and do you think she'll be able to sort of appeal to a wider audience now that she's going to Malmo in that kind of sense to sort of secure the televote because obviously semi-finals are televote only.
Uh, I think she'll be fine at least getting through the semi-final. I think especially we got running orders yesterday as we were filming this. She got a very good one. I think I thought she's not going to win the semi-final, but I think any fears about non-qualifying might have just gone yesterday. I think
Yeah, well, I can only
if
hope so.
if you give a ballad a good running order, like she has just gotten, and a ballad that stands out as well, not
Mm,
not just because of the lyrics, but because of the whole. I love the shifting with the aspect ratio at the high notes. It's great. I think I don't think she'll be raking in televote points in the final, but jury votes kick in then. I think she'll get quite a few from them.
mm, yeah, definitely. I think she has the power and she has the vocal
Yeah.
capability to kind of really appeal to juries, especially if she keeps a sort of similar staging to how she did in Festival da Canção. I mean, that in itself is very emotionally charged. It's very,
Yeah,
like, and it's very clean as well because it's all very brilliant white. So like it just really
yeah.
fits, I feel like. So I'm really intrigued to see how it's gonna go once we get to the final because I like how you said, like she's performing 14th out of 15 competing songs. Like it's fairly obvious that she's going to make a mark on people's minds,
Mm.
partially because of recency bias, but also because of the fact that like she's going to be sort of preceding Luxembourg, which is like the last song, but it's kind of like a girl bop, and then like she's the last ballad that's in the night, and I think that's can only put her in good stead. So
And she's getting the 12 points from Luxembourg.
oh, 100%, because if any of you did not know, Luxembourg has a very strong Portuguese diaspora. So who would have seen that coming? That was a bit of a strange thing to learn when I went there at one time, but so be it. Um, so yeah, so we're sort of looking at sort of maybe the wider competition. I mean, like, what did you make of Festival da Canção this year? Like, what did you think of the quality of the songs? How was it for you as a seasoned Festival da Canção enjoyer?
I think it was probably the best national final I've seen in quite some time. And especially in terms of someone who likes ballads, there were just so many, and they were all quite good as well. But
Yeah.
it's not the one thing I like about Festival Canção is you see a lot of different songs from a lot of different cultures without them being like, here's your token Catalan entry like you might get in Benidorm Fest. It's
Yeah.
they are there and they are there on their own merits, and they are just as part of the competition as anyone else. And we saw that with Leo Medea getting a very good result with a lot of Brazilian influences to his song. And we saw some of the ones with more African influence that didn't do as well, but they were still in there. They were still as respected in the competition and invited by RTP to be as part of what is probably, I'd say, the most diverse national final in terms of the sounds we hear.
Mm,
Because the thing is about Festival da Canção, there's a lot of songs that you'd only hear in that national final. Like
totally.
most of the songs in there, you won't get from Melfest, you won't get from Benidorm Fest. And I think a lot of that is down to inviting songwriters and just saying, you can come into the competition, do what you want, essentially.
Yeah, totally.
And it feels really refreshing, especially to because all of them performed their own song.
Yeah.
And I watched the final directly after Melfest, which had like 6 songs all by Jimmy Joker Thornfelt. So going from that to his 10 people, essentially just it's not picking the Eurovision song, it's 10 people sharing their art, which
Definitely.
especially for being at the end of the season, it's a really refreshing change of pace. And this year especially, I think I have like a list of like all my favorite national final songs of the season, and I think this is excluding Yolanda, who was my winner. Like 7 of the top 30 were Festival da Canção songs.
Wow.
So some shouts to Rita Rocha, who came from Open Call. She's 17 and wrote a song by herself, which is scarily talented. Rita Onofre, I think, another one from the Open Call who is great. I think other ones, Nena Perpetua, who I loved. Uh, I think from the semi-finals, I think Left and Huka, especially a lovely song about Sarah Tavares, who is, I think, one of the main ones I think about when you wouldn't hear that in another national final. I
Totally.
think using a platform to tribute to Sarah Tavares, who won Festival da Canção herself 30 years ago, it feels like a really nice closing of the circle type situation there.
Mm, yeah, totally. There's so many songs that are like that just really made an impact this year. And like how you said, like there's so many songs in this selection that you would never be able to
Yeah.
see anywhere on this show, like anywhere else in Europe. Like imagine if someone like imagine if Maria Joao was in Melfest. Like to me, that is just like such an alien concept, right? Like it's only a place where you could go for that kind of music because it doesn't confine itself to certain genres in the same way that
Yeah.
certain other countries do. For example, like Germany, you know, like Germany always has to be radio
Yeah.
friendly, and Sweden always has to have like polished pop, for example. Like
Yeah.
Festival da Canção allows itself to get dirty in that sense. And I like that because it means that what we're getting is genuine musicians and genuine music. And I know a lot of people don't really like the whole Salvador Sobral comments kind of situation, but to be honest, I mean, what he said is kind of representative of what Portugal is like in terms of how it deals with Festival da Canção and then going to Eurovision as a whole. So, you know, maybe there was some method in that madness, you know.
I think
For me, I mean,
also on Maria Zhao, she's 67.
literally, it's inclusive for
Like,
everyone. And
like
go on.
Eurovision shouldn't just be for like 20 somethings looking to boost their careers. She is a seasoned artist who
Yeah,
it just shows that it's for everyone. And we're seeing that quite a lot this year with not people her age, but certainly older people entering their selections and winning, which
yeah,
is a fresh breath of fresh air.
yeah. And it's good though, because it means that, you know, obviously Eurovision is a lot more geared towards younger people. I mean, like within the demographics, it's like what, 16 to 24. There's like about like 20% of the share of the market. So it's quite a lot. So now, you know, having a lot more people get involved with it, especially from the older generations as well as younger ones, it's nice because it means that we're all sharing our music passions, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for me, I mean, I love this selection so much. I mean, as a concept, Festival de Canção is one of my favorite national selections of all time. I used to say it was Vidbeer, but I fully now believe that it is Festival de Canção. Um, I had the very lucky opportunity of going to the final of Festival de Canção, and I have to say, you know, RTP welcomed us all very well. You know, thank you so much to RTP for letting us in, you know, like letting us get to see some of the artists perform the interval acts. We got to see Filomena Cautela and Vasco Palmerim just like throwing themselves like around the stage during the interval acts, which is hilarious. Fun fact: all of the sort of interval acts during Festival de Canção are pre-recorded, so they just give themselves a little bit of time just to relax because if they're having to stand for a good 3.5 hours, I can imagine that would be quite
Yeah.
painful. But yeah, so no, thank you so much to RCP for letting us come. It was an absolute pleasure. And like as for the show itself, I mean, what can we say? I mean, it was like I would say that it was perfect because you had the perfect balance of okay, all of the songs competing were like done, like they were bashed out very early. So we had like a lot of time to have the recaps. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, there's like 27 different recaps or something like that. But also at the same time, you know, if you're going to have this huge event that takes up so much time and money, like you want um your population, you want your viewers to
Yeah.
make the right decision, right? So I didn't really have that much of an issue with it. But yeah, in terms of like the songs that I really loved, I mean Maria Joao was like my number one. So obviously I was heartbroken when she didn't qualify for the final. But I also really loved Mela. I think that was also pretty good. Just a shame she couldn't sing live. Nena was also one for me. Like Teorias de Conspiração is like probably one of my biggest growers of this entire selections like season. So that's really nice to see that like that was coming through. I also really liked Miladores as well with Afia Lingua. I think like the story behind that I think is really strong. Creatura as well. There was so many of them I really did like. There were very few that I didn't like. There would probably be easier to say the ones I didn't like. So like more sort of Silk Nobra was maybe not my kind of style, maybe, or also maybe a bit of Philippa as well. I
Yeah.
wasn't a big fan of the English sort of translations of stuff. But genuinely, I mean, look, we were here for if you're here for diversity, this is the perfect opportunity,
Yeah.
you know. And like how you said, like having so many different cultures represented was phenomenal. You know, we had Brazilian, we had Mozambique, we had Angola, we had Cabo Verde. Like there were so many different cultures that were represented, and they were just there. Like they weren't. It
Mhm.
wasn't like a gimmick. Being like, look at this. Like I'm singing in like how, for example, like in Eurosong, for example, it's like look at me, I'm singing in Irish. You know, like this is
Yeah.
something so different. Like this is just something that's perfectly normal in Portugal, and I think
Yeah.
that's really nice. Um, so yes, I'm really thrilled with the selection. Personally, I preferred last year's songs. I think last year was a lot stronger in terms of the songs because I think I had like half of the songs downloaded onto my playlist last year, whereas this year there's about maybe 6 or 7, but still that's still quite strong for any national selection. Um, but I still think, you know, Portugal is just going from strength to strength, and we just need
Yeah.
to keep on going with that. So, sort of looking at it, I mean, what did you make of the show itself? Like, how did you feel like the stage looked like? How did you feel like it sort of looked on this on TV? Because obviously, with me being in Lisbon, I didn't see fully how things looked.
First of all, they have the best graphics in the game. I need to just say that from the start. Just
So true.
everything about it is just incredible. I also think the stage was good. It allowed people to bring their own staging, and that's really all you need from a national final stage to like not hold people back, and it didn't. I also think one of the fun things was people's like gimmicks in the green room. It made, especially from someone who doesn't really understand what they're saying, it still made going to the green room fresh because they
Mm,
had like Perpetual with their boat, like I think it was Yao Bosch with his Guitar Hero. Like cutting to that, it just made things more fun, which is what these things should be. They should be fun
yeah.
because it's entertainment at the end of the day. So if it's not going to leave you entertained, there's a problem there. And it did leave me entertained, even if it goes on for quite a bit. But it didn't feel like it was going on for too long, even though it went on for a long time. I think it
Mm.
had one of the better ABBA medleys for sure.
Yes, we have to talk about that as well, don't we? Oh, all of the interval acts. Especially, no, I mean, to be fair, like how you said, they at least there was something a bit more substance wise in terms of the ABBA
Yeah,
medley. But please, no more ABBA medleys after this. I beg. But anyway, carry on.
I think as for interacts, I think they were relevant to the competition for one. Like we
Mm,
had in the first final the Sarah Tavares tribute, and in the final the 50 years of the Carnation Revolution one, and getting the same guy back to saying it was a really nice touch. Because I'm sure other people will just get someone more relevant today, but
mm.
they got the same guy back to sing his song from 50 years ago, which imagine writing a song, having it insp having it be the signal for a revolution in your country, and then still be singing it 50 years later. I think that is just wild, but in like a great way.
Yeah, it's the history
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
fantastic.
so I think one more thing. I think just all the people who were competing, especially with when we were interviewing and stuff, they were just all so nice. Like,
100%.
like you can tell from them it's like a genuine pleasure to talk about what they do, which is just shows that it's people sharing their art. And, they- and essentially they just love to talk about themselves, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you go back to some of our others like interviews over the course of Festival da Canção, I mean, like you can so tell that, you know, for them, obviously they live and breathe music. So when
Yeah.
it comes down to being able to talk about it and talk about their influences and how they felt when they got onto the selection and stuff like that, like it's a proud moment for them. We
Yeah.
are just allowing them to have that kind of moment. So, and again, they're all so down to earth. Like not a single person that I spoke to or you spoke to or who Angus spoke to were like had any issues with anyone. They were just very down to earth. They just wanted to share their story, and I think that's really really lovely.
Yeah.
um yeah, in terms of interval acts, I mean, look, there were some that were very strong, like for example the Mimi Cat tango I Curacao kind of new version. And shout out to Mimi Cat because she is lovely. For those of you who might not know, I sang with her sort of recently, so
Get it on screen.
that was chaos, but in the best way. Um, but also shout out to her because she's just such a lovely woman. I mean, like you can see on all of our other interviews that we've had with her last year,
Yeah.
she's just so down to earth. She's so great. Um, and of course, as well, in terms for the actual selections, like how you said about the 50-year revolution of the Carnation Revolution, I think that was a really fitting tribute. I thought it was really nice. Um, I I like how you said, like, I wasn't really a big fan of the Abba medley, but that's only just because like we've kind of been a bit Abba'd out this
Yeah.
year, but we kind of expected that that was going to be the case anyway, especially given the history of the
Yeah.
the show and whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, the many of the interval acts didn't really sort of make that much of an impression on me, but that's mostly just because I was doing other things, I think. So,
Yeah.
but I guess that's the whole point. I guess if you're like a viewer and you've kind of watched all of the competing songs, you're kind of like, okay, well, what's next? This is just kind of background
Yeah.
music. But saying that, I mean, like how you said, like the green room stuff was really interesting. I mean, like, Yolanda just bringing in a sewing machine, I think is just
I
so.
think my favorite one, Rita and Offering making friendship bracelets
Can
and
we get
handing them
some?
out. I
I want
hope so.
Rita and Offer, please get in touch with us. We want some friendship bracelets, please. Um, but yeah, no, I think in terms of like how you said, like the graphics, like the actual presentation of this selection is so slick. And like it's just gone from strength to strength again in terms of how it's sort of presented to us. Yeah, like yes, in previous years we have been in an arena for the sort of national selection, like for the final of it. But then obviously when COVID hit, then it was just like they had to kind of scale back. And then like this year they were hoping to kind of bring it back into the arenas, but then snap elections happened and then budget
Yeah.
constraints happened again, so it just meant that they weren't going to. I know that they are hoping to bring it back into an arena within the next couple of years, so fingers crossed they will be able to do that. But yeah, look, this is just an iconic selection, and the people hosting, I mean, like Filomena and Vasco, so funny. Like, and again, also like the numerous different presenters over the course of the three shows, because obviously we're celebrating 60 years of the festival, but also 50 years of the Carnation Revolution, for example, as well. Like
Yeah.
we had a lot of history, so as a result we had a lot of other people kind of taking part. Like Isaura showed up at one point,
Yeah.
Silvia Alberto, who Caterina Furtado as well, like those two who went on to host Eurovision 2018 were also there, as well as Filomena. So it was a very iconic festival this year, and it
Yeah.
was a very iconic edition of it. So you know I don't blame them for paying tribute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sort of like I guess we kind of talked about it at the top of the episode, but I think, how do you think like Portugal's sending this will put them in good stead for future editions of the festival? Like, how do you think that will work?
I don't really think they bother. They're particularly bothered about where their stuff comes, if I'm being honest. I just think they want to send something nice that they like. And they'll do that regardless of how well it does. But I think she'll do at least decently. And
Mm,
You can tell that the artists they want to take part. So even if
definitely.
Yolanda flops, I think the national final will still go from strength to strength.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, like, like how we were saying, like, because it stands out so much, I don't think that's going to be
Yeah,
that likely that she's going to flop. Um, but it's more of a case of building the national brand of Eurovision
yeah,
in Festival da Canção. So like now that several artists that have like a lot of weight behind them have come back and
yeah,
have told the artists like, okay, well this is how it does, like they won't sort of change your style, they won't change you, make you
yeah,
change your music, that kind of thing. That's attracting a lot more
yeah,
interesting artists, like for example Maru, like Mimi Cat, like Yolanda, like all of these really standout artists that have their own identity as artists and like their own style, and they're not going to compromise that. But then also Eurovision won't try to change that. And I think now
yeah,
Portugal is starting to get that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it kind of goes next year and the years after that, because who doesn't want to enjoy Festival da Canção? Like
yeah.
Festival da Canção is like, look, if we go on about this for any longer, it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. So we should probably just wrap it up anyway. But anyway,
Yeah.
do we have any sort of final points on Festival de Canção just before we sort of finish things?
In terms of going from strength to strength, I have a little list of Portuguese artists I already listen to who I'd like to see in it. We got Bianca Barros, Barbara Bandera, Marcia, Carolina de Deus, Inês Mostra Lucas, Inês Marquez, Emiko, and Joanna Alegre, who I think would all be great. Essentially, anyone produced by Shoro, and as well, I'd like No Maka to return, but with someone else. Like Anna Marie was great, but No Maka they've only shown a little fraction of what they can do.
Yeah,
I think with someone with a group who have such a diverse sound for them, they could come back and it could not feel stale.
mm.
Uh, and
Yeah, no. I mean, the song itself was really good. But to me, it was
I,
a lot
I
more of a radio song as opposed to
yeah,
a staging kind of show, isn't it? So, but yeah, definitely. Hopefully, who knows?
I
Maybe
think
RTP will have a
that
little.
them I think them with a male vocalist could be cool. And why not bring back Isaura to sing her own song? As lovely as Claudia Pascual was, we sing our own songs in Portugal now.
Yes, that is like we don't bring in any extra people. It's just like we are a nation of
Yeah,
self singer songwriters, and if that's not it, then you'll
yeah,
be shunned, shamed. But yeah, no, totally. I mean, all of that I agree with. I mean, Nasaya would also be a really cool sort of DJ producer to kind of work with as well within Festival de Canção. He's done a lot of work with Maro. I think
yeah.
that'd be really cool. Um, yeah, and I mean, Marisa Monte, I know she's Brazilian, but I think that would be really cool to see her come back. I like to try to do something because she does amazing music too. Claudia Lights, I mean, yeah, again, she's huge in Brazil, but like there's the other kind of thing. I'd love to see Pongo come back as well. I think, Pongo has such an amazing discography. She was as great as Degrade was. We need to see her on her own with some proper like she's the one that's behind the wheel, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, totally. And with that, I think we should probably just like wrap this up because if we keep
Yeah.
going on, it'll just be like forever and ever this
Uh,
this episode.
the meeting time thing has come up at the top. So
Oh no. Oh well, that's probably makes sense then why we should probably do that. Um, but yeah, so thank you so much, obviously, for watching this. I mean, let us know what you think of, what did you make of Festival de Canção? Were you happy with that Yolanda one? Do you think someone else should have won? What was your opinion on the actual show, on the graphics, like how we much, do you have the same views as we do, or do you think there's a lot more that needs to be changed? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to know what you think. And also, thank you very much to Daniel as well for
thank
joining
you.
me on this. And hopefully, fingers crossed, RTP will have us back next year so we can keep going to
Yeah.
Festival de Canção and then just enjoy ourselves as best as we possibly can. But yes, in the meantime, continue to follow us on all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. There's another one that I'm not remembering, but
Tumblr.
which one?
Tumblr.
Tumblr, that's it. All of that at that Euro site. Also follow us on our podcast as well, that Eurovision podcast. That is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at that Euro podcast as well. And yeah, let's just get ready for the Eurovision 2024 season. I feel like we definitely, we're only weeks away now from rehearsal starting, so it can only just get better from here. So I'm really looking forward to it. So shall we say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye.